I guess we can then begin the first episode of two podcasts simultaneously.
Awesome.
So, have you thought of a name for your podcast?
Yeah, mine is the journey of self-discovery.
The Journey of Self Discovery. Awesome. Cool. Full power to that, brother. Okay.
Thank you, Vishnu, and full power to you.
Thank you so much, brother.
And what's the theme of your podcast?
So, mine is called Give and Grow Rich.
All right, you mentioned
So,
that.
yes. So, this is like I want to explore more on financial themes. And specifically, I can tell you, like, why is it that my life's journey kind of brought me to this topic? Like, see, because actually, I would say I realized fairly early in life that it is very important to be financially abundant, right? Because as children, like, we're dependent, on our parents for whatever, because they're the ones who have the money. And because of that, then they get to tell you all kinds of rules that you have to follow, and sometimes you don't like them. And like as a child, you start dreaming about, how can I get free as soon as possible? And so this was something that, kind of led me on this journey. uh Also because like I saw what was the kind of conversation that was happening around this topic in my family. It's like how it was, and it's like how things were perceived in our extended family as well. And so I realized that this is something which is very important. And then as I started to grow up, this kind of continued as the theme of my life, where somehow, even though I did my civil engineering, my first job was in investment banking. And over there, like, I understood very deeply that the finance sector is also a scam. Essentially, it's like a gigantic Ponzi scheme that is running, where a bunch of people are basically creating money and everyone else is just following this. And so some people have the ability to just create money out of thin air, you know and so that kind of made me question what I was doing, because I was thinking, man, this is nuts. It's like I'm here slogging my ass off, working, 6 days a week for like 12 hours a day or something like that, to earn peanuts. And there's some people halfway across the world, who can just type some digits and they have like billions and trillions of dollars that just get created out of thin air. And so this kind of led me to think that, I have to like explore other things in life. And so that's how my journey kept continuing. And uh, yeah, I was able to make certain good decisions fairly early in my life, which helped me retire at the age of 27. And that was really amazing, because that really allowed me to explore life. Because you see, this is the thing, it's like, because life is fundamentally for exploration. And but you're in kindergarten, of course, like, as a baby you're exploring, everything is really interesting. And it's like the bed, the table, the chair. Like as a 5-year old, a 6-year old, 7-year old, all everything is like super interesting. But after that you go to school, and suddenly things become less interesting. Like now I have to, for some reason, understand something about, like, trigonometry and geometry and, like, civics and chemistry. And somebody is telling me that I need to know this dude from 1858 and what he did to some other dude, and, like, and then, like, what his wife did to him. It's like, I'm like, what the fuck, why do I need to know all these things, right? And then, but in that phase, basically after your initial phase of exploration, when, until say the first 5 to 6 years of your life, you're free and life is amazing. But then the next 16 years, you're sort of trapped in this cycle. Like you're running in this hamster wheel that, you've been put into, that I have to get the best marks I need. And essentially what is happening is your whole time, your whole day is just going away into something. And then after that, like, I got into a job and I realized, like, what the hell, man? I get a salary, but I have no time to spend my salary. Like, it just accumulates in my bank account, because I have no way to use this. And and so I was very lucky that like that I figured this out very early in life. and I was able to retire. And then I would say that is when my life truly started to blossom, because then I had the time and the financial means to actually explore the things that I really wanted to do. And that is when I moved to the mountains and I started, like, experimenting and doing all kinds of things which, like, it wouldn't have been possible otherwise. And so I feel really blessed that I have had abundance of money in my life. And it's like, and I feel really blessed. More important than that is that I received some really good guidance and mentorship very early in my life, from some really good books that I read. And I think it is good fortune that you come across these things in the first place, because
Hmm.
unless that information enters your reality, what do? You're trapped. If you're
Yes.
if you're only stuck with the wrong information, if you're stuck in the wrong loops, then there's no way to get out of it. It's only
Hmm.
when you start receiving this kind of information and then you realize that, wow, there are like all these amazing people who have lived on this planet, who are currently there on this planet, because your own bubble is not providing this stuff.
Hmm.
And so I'm very grateful that this happened like fairly early. And then uh yeah, my life's been pretty magical. And but then I noticed that this is a topic that seems to cause a lot of problems to a lot of people, because most people are spending most of their waking hours doing something in order to make money.
Hmm.
Like, that's what a job is. It's like they're traded their time for money. And so I'm interested in figuring out that, how can we upgrade this cycle? It's like, how can more people be doing things that they genuinely enjoy and still be able to like sustain themselves, and how this can be done, so this kind of led me down this path where first, when I was still in the mountains and I'd started a community, so I started a project to try and see if people can like collaborate and help each others and create multiple streams of income and revenue, so that they're able to like support and sustain each others. But then I
Hmm.
learned a few things from that experience, and I realized that, it's like, uh, interestingly, people only take things seriously when they pay for it.
Hmm.
And as long as, if they're receiving amazing things on a silver platter, they don't value it, right?
Absolutely.
And so I had to go through a whole cycle of that. And finally, now I would say maybe I'm in like the next iteration of that, which is like the Enlightened Healers program, where
Yo.
now it is far more systematic and it's proper, where I would say there's like multiple streams of revenue that are being generated.
Hmm.
But the essential idea is also, because see, the point of the money is to facilitate life.
Hmm.
And we need community, we need connection, we need friends, and we need people, and we need love, and all of those things. Right.
Hmm.
And so that's the intention of like the Enlightened Healers program as well. So that we are able to like create our own community of healers, and we're able to give that love to each others, and we're able to like,
Hmm.
grow and, help each others grow, and, share that positive, beautiful energy with the planet, because we're here for an adventure, right? We're here to have fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you
So,
for sharing that, brother, and setting a tone towards the dream life, I would say. Like
yes.
the life that we had been living as children. And somewhere we got told that, hey, childhood is over. And now life is going to be trouble. And somewhere we accepted that. And we probably didn't question that, or we didn't have enough resources to find the strength that probably what we are thinking, that something is wrong. I don't want to just slog my ass off and then wait for that one vacation after 6 months and then just spend 10 days in mountains and then come back to a 6 feet by 6 feet cubicle and keep staring on a screen. Like it sounded lopsided. And what you talked about, like having these resources today, it is really phenomenal. Like it's transforming the opportunity available to all of us, the resources which are available to all of us. It's just the responsibilities with us to access what is available and transform. So I'll just go back into my journey. Like I was thinking of how things transpired with me. And since as a child, I always used to question this. Like life is out about exploration, what you said. Why do I have to keep repeating the same thing over and over again when I'm no longer enjoying it? I would question that why am I going to school every day? If I've taken this job, why am I going to work every day? Why am I going to college every day? Like each day can be different and it can be enjoyable. And it was until like I was in the US and I was with my cousin, and he gave me this book titled The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, I think.
Yes.
And that was really transformational. Like for the first time, I could read somebody else who had similar thoughts that were resonating in my head. And you talked about the bubble, because we thought, and I thought, like I am alone with my thoughts. Nobody else thinks like me. My parents never thought like this. They were like, ये तो करना ही होता है, ऑफिस तो जाना ही होता है. Like it's a compulsion enforced from where none of us had that answer. सब यही कहते हैं. Everybody says this. Everybody does this. It's like a de facto understanding from some unknown power, which everybody is just slogging under that power. So that book really planted that thought in me, and the thought kept churning in my head. And like for you, it was fairly early in my life, but for me, the conversation with the universe was slightly different. It was to a point where the universe had to shake me up, and I had to go through those really challenging health issues. While at that time, I looked at them that why am I a victim? Now I look at the same very health issues with gratitude. That had it not been for my health challenges, I would not be where I am today. I would not be having the perspective on life that I have today. I would not have the compassion towards all the people who gave me whatever they did, because they did it as best as they could. So yeah, and I'm here now. I've coached with you, overcome my anxiety, and in such a short period of time, I'm running my own business, and now we are doing this podcast. It's as if life has accelerated. It's about maybe not even 4 or 5 months since we got on a call, and I wanted to, do this coaching thing with you for anxiety. And here I am, right, enjoying what I really want to do and creating money for me to create the life that I want to live. So that brings me to a question I really wanted to ask. Like, what do you think about money? Like, what's the first mind shift about money that people really need to have to create that shift in their reality? Like, what's wrong with the way we think about money?
All right. So that's a really beautiful question, because it's interesting, how this is such an important topic in our life, yet people don't talk about it or think about it. Like, at least they don't cover the fundamentals. It's like you go through school for 12 years and you go through college for another 4 years. That's 16 years right there. And some people go for like masters, which is another 2 years, or some people become doctors. And so you're going anywhere between 16 to 20 years, maybe more, right, of preparing yourself so that you can work and earn money. Yet people don't think about money at all. Like, in the abstract, they don't. Like, they don't think about what is it, what is it doing, what does it mean to me in life, and they don't question all of those things. So the first thing that I would say that people need to understand about money is that it's a tool that is helping us collaborate in scale, truly. Because in the absence of money, we wouldn't be able to do all the kind of things that we're able to do. Right? It's a representation of value. Like, how much value am I offering to the world? Right? And so it's a result. It is not the cause. And one of the biggest things that I would say people need to understand in order to like change something about themselves is they're obsessing about the fruits and not realizing about the roots. You know, it's like the roots create the fruits, right? And so
Hmm.
the money is the outcome, the value is the input, right? And they don't realize this. You know, there's like a direct result between the input and the output. And it doesn't matter, you know, whether you have your own business or you're working in a company or whatever it may be, right? The input is what creates the output. So there
Hmm.
are people, you know, who end up in, let's say, a government job or, you know, like even in another job, you know, it's like, and maybe they're very dissatisfied with their job and they don't then put in their whole heart and soul into it.
Hmm.
And then they're like, I will just do enough so that I don't get fired. Right. And so then, of course, life's opportunities don't open up for you because we
Hmm.
don't live in a physical universe. You know, we live in a spiritual universe. Right. And there are some laws, you know, which govern us. So now the opportunities that present themselves to you depend on what you do. Right. The point of like opening your heart and really doing something with a lot of passion is not to please your boss. It is not so that, you know, you'll get a pat on the back or, you know, it's because possibly your salary is not going to go up like 10x. But the
Hmm.
point of really opening your heart and doing everything that you potentially can is then you signal to the universe that, hey, man, I'm willing to be a tool for
Hmm.
energy transfer, right? I'm willing to serve, I'm willing to give my best. And when the universe sees you, right? Because that's another thing that I want, you know, I would say a shift that people can have is that all money in your life is coming to you from the universe. Like it doesn't matter whether you are working in a job in a company or you have your own business or you have some partnership or you make some investments. Like, of course, it seems like it's coming from some places, but
Hmm.
fundamentally, all money in your life is coming from the universe. And so
Wow.
you have a fundamental relationship with the universe. So the very first thing that you need to do is you need to signal to the universe that, hey, I am ready as a tool, use me. Right. And what that means is that you already have a bunch of gifts that the universe has given you. Each one of us is absolutely unique.
Hmm.
And so if we're willing to open and unravel our gifts and truly share that with the rest of the world, that is when we're signaling to the universe that, hey, okay, this one is ready, we need to bump it up. You know, it's like put this fellow in the next spot, which
Hmm.
will facilitate more of his gifts to come out, more leverage to happen. So all of those things will happen.
Hmm.
Right? And the problem is that a lot of times people are waiting for the end result. And you know, they're like waiting for the outcome, not tweaking the input. Right? They're thinking that, oh, when I make 10 lakhs a month, then I will do this kind of things. इतने
Hmm.
पैसे के लिए इतना ही मिलेगा. Right? So they're in that attitude. And
Hmm.
when they're in that attitude, they remain in that bubble. Right? And
Hmm.
when you, because you see, the point of you unfolding your gifts is not just to please your boss or something, it is to make sure that your talents are blossoming. Because that is something that's far more important. Because you see, we need to have a diverse set of skills.
Hmm.
And each skill gets better with practice. And the more you give, the more opportunity you have to practice. And one of the biggest things that I notice in people is their inability to give. You know, it's like people are
Hmm.
very tight fisted, be it with, you know, their money, be it with their attention, be it with their love, be it with their knowledge. A lot of people are very tight fisted.
Hmm.
You know, a lot of people are very calculative. They think that, you know, it's like, oh, like I would say that, you know, there are like three kinds of people in the world. You know, there's like, there's the givers, there's the takers, and then there's the matchers, right? Now,
Okay.
the givers are the ones who are like happily, freely, just giving as much as they possibly can because they just want to make the world a better place. They're like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm alive, I'm awake today, so what to do, right? Like they see, look around, they're like, oh, this could use some help. This nail can be there, that can happen there. This person needs this, and they will just give because they
Hmm.
just want to, because they just feel very happy. They have a lot of energy, and they just want to share their energy. And
Hmm.
then there are takers, like who are like they just have like they don't care, like as much as possible from wherever they can get, they will just take. Now the interesting
Hmm.
thing is the world is not full of takers. Actually, the percentage of takers is also like a very small percentage,
Oh.
because it's not like we're overrun by such people who will just take the last penny off you or something like that. But a vast majority of people are actually matchers, which is now whatever they will receive, they will try to match it back because otherwise it will hurt their conscience. Like if they just receive too much value from you, then they will try to give back like equal amount. Like like if you have a neighbor who's moved in recently, you go give them some food, like in your utensil. It's like you give them some uh, chole bhature or like whatever, aloo paratha and some stuff you make and pulao, and then you just give it to them. It's like, now, they would not return the utensil empty, most likely. They will put in
Hmm.
something else and then give it back to you. That's the
They will
principle of
match it.
matching. It's
Hmm.
like कि हमने इतना पाया है तो उतना देंगे, and they have like a very rough estimate, कि like they're keeping a track of each
Hmm.
person.
Hmm.
But the interesting thing is, like, when you're still in that frequency of matching, it's like uh the universe realizes that you're not yet ready,
Hmm.
because you're still in a much lower plane of existence. And when you truly just open your heart and just start letting that energy flow, right?
Hmm.
Because that is the fundamental resource of life, which is the cosmic energy that you have. Like the fact that you're living and breathing right now is because there's energy in you.
Hmm.
Like every cell of your body is operating on energy.
Hmm.
And so as we start receiving and giving, it's like every time you give, you create more space and then you open yourself up to receiving, right? You don't have to. And that is the beauty of being a giver, because you're not concerning yourself with one person. Your fundamental relationship is with the universe.
Hmm.
And when you see everyone as the universe, then you can give very freely. It's like you can give to everyone, everywhere, whatever the need may be.
Wow. So that's quite interesting, all that you've mentioned. And it does talk about a variety of concepts, variety of themes.
Mm.
And I really want to make sure that I am understanding this correctly and everybody who's listening is understanding this correctly. So, first of all, you mentioned that the universe is giving resources to you. And if you're not ready, it looks at your readiness. If you are just a matcher, then you are perhaps not ready and you receive only as much as you can best utilize. Now, the question that pops up in my head is like, what is stuck in people who are not ready to move to the next phase? Because you also talked about this inborn, or probably what we learn later, this thing about pleasing others. Why do we please others? How to get over this? And you talked about belief, that we have these beliefs that itna karo to itna hi milta hai. Like, where do they come from? Because a lot of people have these things churning in their head, and because of the pleasing, because of the beliefs, they're not able to give. They're not able to really integrate what we are talking in their lives. So how should they go about doing that to bring some like noticeable change?
Okay, cool. So there's a bunch of questions over there, I would say.
Yeah.
So probably the first thing I would start with is like beliefs. So people are caught in their erroneous beliefs, and this is a result of their childhood, essentially. Like, because our parents also had erroneous beliefs, and they've gone through their childhood, and there's this stuff that is carrying forward from generation to generation. And so we picked up these programs and these ideas about scarcity, about lack, about cheating, about all of these things. And then we integrate that into our life. And you see, the interesting thing is that the external world is a reflection of your internal world. So, whatever belief systems you have, you will realize them. And, the problem is because people don't understand this concept, they have a belief system, and then the external world will absolutely mirror this belief system. And they look at that and they feel like, yeah, that's exactly what I thought it was. Right? Like, like if you're a person who thinks like you shouldn't trust anybody, like most people are cheats. They might appear friendly on the surface, they might seem nice, but when the time comes, they will cheat you. Now, this person with this belief system will keep running into such people because he's resonating with those people, like, at the energetic level. And so now the experience is just mirroring back this person's beliefs to this person. And now instead of realizing that this is what is happening, this person looks at the experience and goes like, yeah, I knew it, man. Like, I shouldn't have trusted this guy. It's like, I made a mistake, after such a long time, I opened up my heart and I thought, this fellow, at least I can trust. Freaking turned out to be the biggest cheat. Right? So, and then we have all these beliefs, right? And they're just mirroring back to us. And so through our childhood, different people picked up different beliefs. And that's another really interesting concept to see. Like each person is kind of caught in their own little bubble. And the thing is, our thought loops are so intense that we don't have the ability to notice that other people are caught in their own bubble because we are so intensely trapped in our own bubble. But when you finally come out of that loop, and let's say like your mind becomes really peaceful and relaxed, and there's like nothing happening, like, you're sitting outside and you're just looking at the trees, right? And the wind is blowing and the leaves are fluttering in the wind, and you're just looking at that, and then if it starts raining, you're just looking at the raindrops. And it's like you're looking at the water splashing. Your mind is empty, right? Now, when you meet people, and if you still continue to exist in that space where your own mind is empty, you will then start to really see the other person. Because until that point, we don't really see other people. We just see their skin and their face, but you don't see them because we are, you're on mute.
I said like we see our beliefs in them.
Precisely, right? Because we're completely looking at our own projections, and usually this happens, and then we are so deeply in our own head. But when that stops happening, finally we can see what is happening with people, and then you see that each person that you meet is very different. They have their own, perceptions about the same event, about the same situation. They are having a very different narrative, and they're telling themselves a very different story. And then when you look at a lot of people, then you can realize how this mechanism is actually playing out. And then you can see, it's like you meet Anita, Babita, Sunita, Geeta, Sita, and it's like, and you'll see like each one will have like a different thought pattern. They have a different perception, and they have a different way of seeing life.
Yeah, like something as simple as कुत्ते तो काटते हैं, सांप खतरनाक होते हैं. Like something as simple as that can just change your reality. Like the same very dog will chase and bite you, and for someone else that same dog will lick them and hug them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so you see, that's an interesting idea. If you go forward from, say, even a dog to a human, what happens is that when we have a belief system that people are annoying, right, as compared to, say, people are usually good, right? They're usually happy. Who wants to be annoyed anyways, right? And so let's say there are two people who are at different ways of like looking at life. And if they get like a Uber, it's like they have to go to the airport. Now, if the same driver, say, on different days picks up these two different people,
Hmm.
they will meet the driver at a different frequency.
Wow.
Like the same person, like, who's coming to the two different people. One day, he would have arrived to the person, right after having a fight with his wife, and he's in
Hmm.
a horrible mood, and then he meets this guy, and he's like
Hmm.
very irritated with this fellow, and he's got a bad attitude, and this fellow looks at his attitude and gets triggered and then says something to trigger him more, and then there's a very unpleasant Uber ride to the airport, which is
Right.
reinforcing this person's belief. And the same guy on the next day, like, he's received some amazing news from somebody in the family, and like, his son has topped the some exam, and then this fellow is like on cloud nine, feeling so good and so happy, and then he comes and picks up this guy. And then, he's like, this fellow gets into the car and says, hey, what man, you look so happy and stuff, tell me also some stuff. And then they have a wonderful conversation, and then they go to the airport, and this guy gets dropped off. So every person is also operating at different frequencies, because it's always changing. We're not static. It's not like one line, right?
Yeah.
So what frequency of a person that you resonate with also depends on your own frequency.
Say that again.
What frequency of a person that you resonate with also depends on your own frequency. Like whether you
Sure.
resonate with them when they are angry, or you resonate with them when they are happy,
Hmm.
depends on your frequency. Like if you're an angry person, you will meet them when they are angry. If
Wow.
you're a happy person, you will meet them when they're happy. Like when they're angry, your realities will simply not converge. Like you will not meet this person. He'll be somewhere else, you'll be somewhere else doing something else.
So that's like a really mind-blowing observation, isn't it? Like it's like changing the entire narrative for us, that we are victims versus we are creators. Like one
100%.
side, if I am not observing my own frequency and the invitation I am sending out to the universe, and I receive an angry person, I will say I'm a victim. This bloody guy spoiled my day. And I will complain, I will shout, I will have resentment, I will have all kinds of negative things. So the more I have that, the more forward I'll create, the more of the same. And it's like a vicious circle. It's a trap. Like that's what it feels like to me. And on the
Absolutely.
flip side, like if I see I am in a good mood, and today the same very guy, I have met him also in a good mood, and we are having a really nice, awesome ride with some beautiful conversations, some hearty laughs. It's like I am the creator of my each and every moment. This can really, like this is something I think really, if you can just iterate this with a few more examples, I think this can be really life changing.
Definitely. So in fact, so this is a concept that I really understood from this book called Handbook to Higher Consciousness.
Hmm.
And I think of Ken Keys Jr. as also one of my mentors in life. And
Wow.
he is radically transformed my life. Like I have so much love for so many beautiful people who have really, shared their love and wisdom, which is truly transformed my life. So one of the things, like right in the beginning, like the very first thing that he talks about on our journey towards expanding our consciousness, is that we must take 100% responsibility for our life. And that's a tough ask,
Hmm.
because most people actually enjoy playing victim. And this was a realization that also took me a long time. Like it took many years for me to like really start to notice that people
Right.
enjoy this. Like my god, I like people enjoy this so much. People enjoy playing the victim. And to take that away from them and be like, yo, you're like 100%, like 100% responsible for all of your life. Like every little thing in your life, you are responsible for it, right? So it's a tough ask, but that's the starting, that's the beginning of the book. He says like, hey man, if you want to like upgrade yourself, if you want to expand your consciousness, this is the way to go. You have to take 100% responsibility. And then as you start doing that, then you start noticing the patterns of reality, right? And so probably one of the ideas that I can, because I've used the word expanding consciousness, I'll probably explain it a little bit as well. Because for a
Sure.
lot of people, this might be a fairly
Yeah.
out there concept, it's like very far out, right? So you see, I would say to me, consciousness and awareness are synonymous terms. There's a part of you which is never really changed, right? Like everything in your life, in your body has constantly been changing from the time you were born. Like all the cells in your body are completely changed in probably 7 months time or something like that, so, but in some amount of time every atom in your body is probably different,
Hmm.
yet you continue to maintain the idea of being proud. That's a different story, but there's a part of you that has never really changed from the time you were born. And this is the part of you that has observed Prab life. Like this
Hmm.
is the witness. The witness does only one thing: to watch. That's it. Doesn't do anything else. It doesn't participate, doesn't get involved, doesn't, it's not like, elated by the amazing things, doesn't get depressed, doesn't get sad, just completely unaffected. It's there just watching, right? So now this is the awareness that exists inside you. Now, when I say expanding consciousness or expanding awareness, I mean the same thing. But now, what happens is at a lower state of consciousness, we are completely consumed by our own thoughts. So, that's just this narrative that is running in your head about what is currently going on.
Hmm.
And so, each person, almost all the people in the world, have a very, very active mind.
Hmm.
And so you see, what they're observing, what they're aware of is just their thought patterns. But as you start systematically eliminating these patterns and you start clearing your mind and it becomes calmer and calmer, then you can start to identify patterns in existence, in life, in society, in reality, and how the
Hmm.
universe is actually working. It's not that you couldn't see these things earlier. It's not that this didn't exist before. It was always there, the same stuff. It's
Hmm.
not like some new metaphysical thing has opened up that, it's like now you're able to see like, space dragons in real, like, no, it's nothing fascinating and like that. But you just start observing the patterns of life.
Hmm.
Like the one that I told you, like, like angry people meet other angry people, or they attract situations that evoke more anger. And you just start witnessing that. And the reason you start witnessing it is because your mind is now pretty calm and pretty chill, and it's not generating uh, too much like conversation inside yourself. And so you're then able to see all the other people, like, like as they meet you, as they talk to you, like not only do you listen to the words that they're saying, but you can see where they're coming from. You can see their patterns, and
Hmm.
you're able to identify how their patterns correlate to their life experience better than they can do it for themselves, because you're able to see the whole thing playing out from a higher vantage point. And that is what I mean by higher consciousness.
You're able to see through them.
In some ways, yes. Like I would use the word patterns,
Patterns. Okay.
right? And so I can explain this as well. Like why do I use this word patterns is like I would say life is like a it's like a moving uh, pattern, like like there's these
Yeah.
complex interactions that are happening, and
Hmm.
there's like information loops that are feeding into each others, and consciousness is the light that is shining on these patterns, and
Hmm.
that is what is able to upgrade them.
So we are essentially upgrading the patterns, moving from lower patterns to higher patterns. Is that what you're saying?
In some ways you can say yes. Yes.
Hmm. 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 So is this upgradation of patterns synonymous to upgradation of beliefs in our head? Because we talked about beliefs, and the question came to my mind that is a silent mind one which does not have any beliefs, or are there any right or wrong beliefs? Are there any beliefs that one should have?
Okay, wow, that's a pretty deep question. So you see, now on the topic of the mind, right? A silent mind simply means that in this moment there is no activity that is happening.
Hmm.
It means whatever is there is just dormant, right? So there are, like, I'll give you an example. So say for example, you have the ability to drive a car. So there are many programs that you need in order to drive a car, right?
Hmm.
In this moment, you're not using those programs, so they're dormant. It's not that they have been eliminated, they have been destroyed, they're just dormant because you're not driving a car, right? The moment you sit inside a car and you start driving, then those programs become active. Now, just like the programs that you have for driving a car, you have millions of other programs. And when your mind is silent, that means all the programs are dormant. They're there, they're just not activated.
So then are you saying that, let's say I have these bunch of programs related to driving a car,
Yes.
but now this time I am driving a car, but if I am driving the car with a silent mind, what would that mean?
Okay, cool. Wow, really good questions. So you see, okay, because now you are so good at it that you don't really need this to come to the surface, like to the level of your consciousness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what happens is, because consciousness is part of the feedback loop of life overall. Okay, and this is actually a fairly interesting example to understand life itself. Like if you think about, say, driving a car, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the first time you actually start driving a car, like your consciousness needs to be involved in the activity, because like the
Right.
patterns don't yet properly exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because when I say patterns, for example, like how to move your left hand is a set of, let's say, a million patterns that exist inside you already. You're
Sure.
not consciously aware of them, but
Hmm.
the signals have to go to like every muscle fiber of every finger, and like like just all these things that need to happen. So
Hmm.
now there's a bunch of programs that already exist inside you. Now you start learning how to drive a car. So for the first time you go in, and then it's like you start driving. And so now you have to be aware of so many things. It's like, oh shit, there's like traffic in front of me, there's somebody overtaken from the left, there's somebody overtaken from the right. And then it's like you have to change the gear, and then accelerator and brake and clutch, and it's like you have to move your feet, and you have to hold the steering, and you need to look at the traffic, but you need to change the gear. And your consciousness is like bouncing around back and forth between each one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so your ability to drive is actually fairly bad at this point in time.
All right.
And slowly it is improving, because like they're just bouncing, and then you drive once and twice and three times and four times. And then like you start figuring out, okay, how do I actually control the accelerator when I'm changing the gear? Now
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to be aware of that, because for the first time you have like, you release the accelerator and the vehicle jerks to a halt. And the dude who's teaching you be like, nee, nee, dheere dheere chhodna hai, right? and
Hmm.
and and then like, and then you're leaving it slowly, but then you take your foot off the clutch fast, and then the vehicle stops again. And you're like,
Hmm.
what the fuck? It's like I have to see the gear as well. And who's going to take
Hmm.
care of the traffic, right? And but now in this process, what happens is that now these programs are getting fine tuned with the help
Hmm.
of consciousness.
Right.
Because in the beginning, when you're learning, consciousness is involved, right? And
Okay.
then it gets fine tuned, and then now it gets into the system. And then there comes a time when now you can happily drive, and it's like you don't need to be consciously aware of any of these programs. They can just
Hmm.
do what they need to do. Just the way, like, like you're not aware of the programs that are involved in moving your fingers.
Yeah.
They are
It just
happening.
happens. Like, yeah, I don't even
Yes,
have to think about it.
they're happening below the level of consciousness.
Mhm.
So in that
There
moment,
are like various levels of consciousness.
uh see there, okay, now this is a interesting, okay. So when I say below the level of consciousness, like consciousness at least is not aware of this stuff, because you don't have to be.
Okay. So is it like the light of consciousness when we say that what we are aware of and the way we are living our lives is shaped by beliefs? So it's like the torch of consciousness is focused on a particular subset. And when it is happening below the level of consciousness, my torch of awareness is not shining on those set of patterns which are getting executed to make that happen.
Right, exactly. Because you see, if you think of it from an experiential point of view, in fact, like a analogy that I've given many times is like we live in a video game, right? And
Hmm.
the more you start like thinking about it, it makes a lot of sense. It makes perfect sense, right?
Absolutely.
Because you see, what is happening now is like if you take a any video game, let's say if you pick up Counter Strike, right? Or any game that you resonate with, pick
Yeah,
a
I
game.
just remember Age of Empires from my
Okay,
age.
okay, cool. So let's take the example of Age of Empires, right? So now when you're playing Age of Empires, like you have to create an army, and you're going to use this army to attack somebody else's base and then destroy their city and their home. Essentially,
Hmm.
that's the game. You defend your base and then you destroy their base.
Hmm.
That's the essential intention. But now y- you see who's playing this game. Even this game is being played by consciousness, even though it's the Age of Empires, because it's the same consciousness that is in you that is actually playing Age of Empires through you, right? So, but
Yeah.
now when you think about Age of Empires, now there's a lot of things which are happening. Like within the game, there are certain mechanics, right? Like the game designers made. Like for example, if you create some foot soldiers, like how are they walking?
Hmm.
If you create some cavalry, how is the horse running? If you create some trebuchets, it's like to launch these
Hmm.
things and to throw them on the other buildings and castles and stuff like that.
You
So
played the game.
yeah, I have played the game. Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
So when you think about all of these things, you're not consciously aware of all of these mechanisms because you don't have to be. So these are just programs which are running. And then there are like levels and layers which are happening even below that, which is
Hmm.
what you're looking at is essentially, let's say you're playing on your laptop and there are pixels of a screen which are being lit up with, red, green, blue.
Hmm. Wow. Hmm.
And each pixel is receiving a voltage fluctuation, which is a signal to that pixel about which one has to go off in what intensity. Now,
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
signal is coming to that pixel depending on a GPU and a CPU that exists in your motherboard. Now, you're
But
not,
I'm not aware of it.
yes, because that's just an overwhelming amount of information.
Hmm.
So, you receive enough information so that you can actually enjoy.
Hmm.
Everything else
Okay.
is on autopilot, it's like it doesn't need your awareness.
Hmm. Yeah, this is very interesting, and like a ton of questions are popping up in my head.
Yes.
I'm just thinking which one to ask first. So, this is a tempting question. Like, from within this human body, like, what is the limit or the container of consciousness? Like, can I, for example, right now, I am aware of everything through this body and through the senses that this body offers.
Hmm.
Is that like the limit of the body? Or can I be aware of things outside the sensory experience of the body?
You can be aware of things outside the sensory experience of the body, because I would say your body is inside consciousness. It's not the other way around. And so there's an interesting book that I'd read by a person called Robert Monroe. It's called, Journeys Out of the Body. And so in this, he talks about like astral projection, and how he had like lots of experiences, and then he actually started the institution called the Monroe Institute, and they've done a lot of work on this. So he's documented in a lot of detail the kind of experiences that he's had doing astral projections. And there are different dimensions that he had visited in his astral projections, and it's like, and each one has like different laws, and they're like very different. So you can access those things. You don't need the sensory apparatus of your body in order to go to these other places. Consciousness is quite capable of going to these other places independent of your body, right? Like, your body cannot operate without consciousness. Consciousness can operate without your body.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. And like the direction I was going with that question is, so if you're saying that there is this consciousness and we can bring the torch of awareness from within the body, let's first we started with the example of the human experience that we've learned driving a car. And first of all, it's a uh, very tough, so to say, experience where consciousness is shifting from the gear lever to the clutch pedal to the steering wheel to the road and so on and so forth. And then along the way, all of that goes to below the level of consciousness, and driving the car is fairly easy. And this analogy we can use in general for life as well. There are so many things that we do in life, and we are just doing them as a matter of fact. But then you said that we can have experiences beyond the body. So consciousness per se, which is the very consciousness which is having experiences through this body, and which defines all of the experiences which we have had in our lifetime, like what we are seeing right now, what I'm breathing right now, I can feel the breath, I can feel my body, I can see this laptop. All of this is the consciousness experiencing this, witnessing this, right?
Yes.
And consciousness is not limited to the body. It can experience tune into stuff outside the body.
Yes.
The body needs consciousness, not the other way around. So that would imply that we are not the body or the mind. Like,
Yes.
there is this notion that whenever I say that me, I, mine, or I call out my name, there's a direct insinuation that there's a direct indication that this body is me, or this mind is me, and the thoughts and the beliefs and the ideas I have for different topics, for which football team is the best, or which political party is the best, or how best can you invest in stock market, and so on and so forth. This set of ideas and this body, like, it is tall, is it short, it is fat, it is round, it is fair, it is dark, like it has long hair, whatever, this defines me. Now you are going beyond that. Can you just clarify that, talk on that?
Sure. So I would say, like, you see, when you identify with your body and your ego, that is one of the reasons why people end up suffering in life. Because that's the thing that creates most of the problem. Like, you have a body and you have an ego, but you're not them. Just the way you have a phone, right? You're not your
Hmm.
phone. Like, you have a phone. It's like, it's very different. Like, you can have any number of things, but if you start identifying yourself with it, then it starts creating problems, right? Now, to understand this concept a bit better, I'll go back to the example of the Age of Empires, right? Like, now you have an army in the Age of Empires, and like you're controlling that army, and it's like if you want them to move left, they will go left. It's like you wherever you send them, they will do that, and you can
Hmm.
send them to their death as well. You can do anything with them, and you have an army, but you're not the army, right? It's the same exact same relationship between consciousness and the character in Age of Empires, and between consciousness and prab body. They're fundamentally no different. It's just that there's like a dimensional shift. What I mean by that is, like, Age of Empires was happening on a two-dimensional surface. Like, it's a two-dimensional game, right?
Hmm.
It's just on a computer screen. And so the level of complexity in Age of Empires is much lower, right? Prab life just has a lot more experiences. Probably a better analogy that I can give, which would make more sense to people, is if you think about Mario, right?
Hmm.
It's another simple game that I think almost everyone has played, or maybe we are already in the older generation and young people have not. I don't know about this, but it's a simple game. There's a guy who starts, and it's like he's eating mushrooms, and then he's jumping on turtles, and then he going into tunnels and like whatever. It's like, and it goes from level to level and stuff like that. And now you're controlling this one character,
Hmm.
right? And like when you press a button, he will jump. And so you have some way of controlling this character. Now, there is no difference between, say, Mario and Prab. It's essentially
Hmm.
the same. It's just a shift in dimensions. Like Mario is happening in 2D, so
Hmm.
it's a much lower bandwidth channel. There's like very little visual information, there's very little auditory information, there is zero tactile information, there is zero of like many other things. But as Prab, there's a lot more visual information. Like if you just walk outside your house and you look at, say, a garden, and so in that garden, like you see that there are rays of sunlight falling at millions of different angles on different leaves and flowers and barks and like birds, and so just like again going back to like video games, like uh, there's a concept called ray tracing, where it's like
Yeah.
they just like how is it that you as the player can have a more realistic experience,
Right.
but they're just emulating what is actually already happening to Prab. Because
Hmm.
when Prab goes out and then is looking at the garden, he's also experiencing ray tracing, because there are the rays of sunlight which are falling on all the different
Yeah.
objects. And so there are hundreds of millions of like rays which are falling on all these different objects and then coming into your eyes, right? So now the amount of visual information that you're receiving as Prab is orders of magnitude higher than the amount of visual information that you receive as Mario. Because Mario is happening on a 14-inch screen maximum, or if you're playing on your TV and you have a 55-inch TV, that's about it. That's still
Hmm.
like very limited in bandwidth. And then as Prab, you have all these other things happening, just purely in terms of the amount of information that you're receiving in any given moment. Plus, on top of that, then in terms of the storyline, Prab can have a far more interesting storyline, right? You have like all these complications with, with your childhood, with your parents, and drama and ego and this and that. And there's all these things. And then, you're part of a country, and then you're part of a system. And then, there's like, uh, there is like this happening and that happening. And all of that is just creating more context to the story. And
Hmm.
it's a very immersive, detailed story.
Hmm.
Like, because Mario is very, very simple. It's like there's a dude who needs to go save a princess.
Hmm.
And if he runs for, I don't know, like some 30 hours without dying, he will reach the princess. Something like that, Like if he
Right.
reaches the princess, he'll save her. That's the essential plot line. But there's no other backstory that, it's like, who is this princess? Why does he care about her? How does it matter? Who are these turtles? Why are they trying to kill him? Why is he killing them? It's like, it doesn't exist, doesn't matter. You don't care so much. You're like, okay, cool. Let me
There's
just,
a limited context to it.
right. But in Prab life, there is so much more context. There's like, my dad's like this because his parents were like that. And his parents were like because this happened and that happened. And it's like, and there's
Hmm.
just like so much more context.
Hmm.
But it's essentially the same. There is zero difference between Mario and Prab. They're the same thing.
Hmm.
It's just a different dimension. So because it's 3D, it has like more context and more information. It's more immersive as well.
Hmm. So, the learning that I can draw from this analogy is that all my childhood, and even when I was in college, I played all these video games, Age of Empires, Mario, Contra, like all of these video games. I played to have fun.
Mm,
I played them to enjoy, and I was just having fun.
yes.
And I was playing as many times as I wanted to play. And each time I had a thought, okay, this time I will do this because this would be fun. And I just went out and did it, and it was fun. If life is just a video game, but we are not ready to have fun in life, where is this dichotomy coming from? Can life be fun? Because if it's just consciousness experiencing and it's just like a screen, then I should really be doing the things that I really want to do. I should be having fun each and every moment in life. What is keeping us away from that? And is it possible to really have fun in life, much like a video game or much like watching a movie?
100% yes. Right? Now, the thing is, this is what life is fundamentally designed for. Right? The purpose of having a game is to have fun, like to really enjoy. Right? And so it is absolutely possible to enjoy Prab life. Now, the reason we actually stop enjoying life is because of our error in identification. As I was
Hmm.
telling you in the beginning, that the reason people suffer is because they attach themselves to something that they're not. And now, when you get too attached to Prab life,
Like, for example, attaching to the family, to the business, to the house, to the neighborhood, to so on and so forth, and not
correct.
really the experience that I am having in the here and now.
Yes. And so, when that happens, then each of those errors in identification is like a chain. It's like a shackle that you're adding onto yourself. And
Hmm.
people add so many chains onto themselves that eventually they reach a space where they simply cannot move. They just tightly locked into position and then they feel awful, right? But when you stop identifying yourself with Prab and you identify yourself with consciousness, and then you see that Prab is a character, just like, there's no difference between Contra, Mario, and Prab. They're all the same,
Hmm.
right? And if you play Prab life in the same spirit in which you played Contra, like Prab life would be an endless epic adventure. And the interesting thing is that the universe will support you to no end. Like, because, like, you see, the universe is you. You're not separate from the universe. It's like, because you see, consciousness wants to have fun, consciousness wants to enjoy and do all these things. And if you're on a planet where most of the people are just kind of, dragging through their life and, not feeling like amazing, and they're not having the most awesome time. And it doesn't matter, how much money you have. Like, it could be at any level, it's like, but if you are truly playing this game in that spirit of a gamer, and if you're like just having a blast, what you will start noticing is that the universe will support you to no end, because the universe is like, oh, awesome. There's one conduit through which I can have such an amazing time.
Hmm. Because the universe also wants to have an amazing time, right?
Exactly. And how else is it doing it? It is doing it through all of us. And the
Hmm.
more of us who open up to having that experience, the universe, it's like a positive feedback loop. The universe is like, freaking amazing. Yeah, one
Hmm.
conduit
Hmm.
opened up. It's like, let's pump in more resources over here so that this one can have a blast.
So this like kind of blows all the fears that people have in their life, right? And all the fears are around this misinformed sense of identity, this identification with all the stuff in our lives, and these fears about, if I do this, this will not work in my favor, that person will not work in my favor, I will not have enough money, maybe I will not have enough leads, maybe my parents will not like what I am doing, and so on and so forth. And here you are saying that I am the universe, like the universe is experiencing reality through me, and I am experiencing everything as consciousness through this body, and so is the rest of the universe. So it's like the universe playing this game with itself, and
Yes.
it wants to have fun. It's like, I look at it like this, that the universe wants to have fun, but because it's just the universe, it's created all of these characters and gone into them, right? And it's like playing, like as kids we used to play with our hands, right? And one hand and the other hand, and we would be like, poke this hand and say something to it, and we just having fun. But while we are doing that, we are aware that these two hands are the same,
Yes.
like they are the same body. So the universe is probably doing the same thing. So me operating through this body can seek all the help from the universe. And the universe will align for whatever I want to do in order to have the maximum amount of life for me.
Totally, totally, absolutely, 100%. So now over here, let me come back to the topic of money from this interesting point of view, right? Which is, now we go back to the Age of Empires example, right? So now in Age of Empires, when you start the game, like you have a gold mine in your base, like wherever you started. It's like you have a town hall, a gold mine, and some
Hmm.
forest. So you send a few guys to collect gold, you send a few guys to collect lumber, and then you start churning out more peasants, and then you start doing a bunch of things. And now you see, here's the thing, like when you're playing Age of Empires, you don't think that money is useless, right? You don't
Hmm.
start having all these philosophical questions around money, because you
Hmm.
know that, it's like, hey man, if I want to upgrade my barracks, I need this much cash, right? If I want to upgrade my town hall, I need this much cash. If I want to create a castle, I need this much cash. And so you want to build your base as quickly as possible, and not just that, you want to go and capture some other gold mine so that you can make more cash. But you see, the point is, you are maximizing the amount of money that you can make. But what is still fundamental in your gameplay is that you're playing to have fun,
Hmm.
and you have other objectives, right? Like now imagine an existence where, somebody is so disconnected that they start playing Age of Empires alone. There is no one else that they're playing with. There's just like this one dude who starts playing the game, and starts creating a few town halls, and then makes peasants, and just takes all the gold mines in the map to make as much gold as they possibly can. This is stupid. Like, it doesn't make
No
any
fun.
sense, right? Why would
Yeah.
you do such a thing? It's like, yeah, sure, like your screen will show that I have made the maximum more money than I made in any game that I ever played in the past, because I captured all the gold mines and I mined all the gold in the whole game. Yeah, sure, bro. What the fuck? Like, what was the point of
Hmm.
doing that?
Hmm.
Right? The point of playing Age of Empires is so that you have fun, and then you have fun by playing it skillfully.
Hmm.
Part of that skill is, how do you manage your resources? Like, how do
Hmm.
you, like, how many people you put on lumber and how many people you put on gold, and then whether you build a barracks, whether you build this thing or that thing, or you make farms, or you make a castle, or whatever. And then you have to allocate your resources in an efficient way. Because if
Hmm.
you're playing against me and you know that, man, freaking Vishnu is like, they're doing a bunch of things. Like,
Hmm.
like, I don't know, it's like, will he surprise me by coming like 5 minutes sooner? It's like when I'm just building up my army, he's already at my gates, with his trebuchets, breaking down my walls and stuff like that. Right. So
Hmm.
now that creates that whole excitement of that, okay, I need to like really ace this. And if Vishnu won the game this time, okay, I know, like, these are the 5 places where I fucked up. Next time when we play, like, I'm going to like sort this out.
Hmm.
Right. And that creates that whole excitement. Right. And so when you start looking at Prab Life also as a video game, then you can learn to see money very differently. It's just game money. Right. That doesn't mean that you don't make money or you forget about it or you're like inefficient about it or if you're sloppy about it. No, because like, if you want to enjoy Age of Empires really, really well, you have to ace everything. Your
Hmm.
gameplay, your control, your allocation, your resources. Like, you have to be like super good at everything, right?
Hmm.
And so in
Hmm.
the same way, in order to really enjoy Prub life to the maximum level, you also have to be really good at everything. Like,
Right.
all the skills that are essential for the character Prub, you have to ace.
Hmm.
Right. And so to me, this is like a very different point of view from like the conventional idea of spirituality, where like, like somebody who is like just going off to a monastery and saying that, okay, I'm just going to like sit and meditate for like 40 years. I'm like, sure, bro, you can do that, that's fine, that's a valid experience. But it's like you ordered a Nintendo Switch and now you're just staring at a blue screen.
Yeah.
And I'm
So
like,
true.
yeah, because like they'll say, yeah, this illusion, this whole dimension is Maya. I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, it is Maya, but like, you see, from my point of view, you never got trapped in this. You're not,
Hmm.
like, you see, like, okay, let me give you this example. Okay. Like, were you ever trapped by Mario? Were you trapped by Counter-Strike? Were you trapped by Age of Empires? No, there would have been a phase of your life where it would have been like really, really exciting for you. So much so that
Hmm.
maybe somebody calls you for dinner and you'd be like, fuck it, I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry.
Hmm.
Right? Because you
Hmm.
just want to continue playing the game.
Because that's what you needed at that point in time. That
Precisely.
was really all the fun you could have. And having all of that fun was actually upgrading all of your skills. What you were talking about just a bit earlier, that it's not that our life is about just one skill or just that one thing we keep doing through entire life. It's about like we can have skill in communication, we can have skills in business, we can have skills in writing, we can have skills in speaking, we can have skills in riding a motorcycle really fast and enjoy that, in climbing a hill and swimming through a river. Like whatever brings us that greater amount of joy in this moment, in this phase of our life, is what we need to do, right.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. And the other thing, like, which came to my mind is while you were talking about this video game and money, is that like earlier in my life, I was about that I have money, money is taken care of. And now let me just chill. But after a point, I started getting bored of that chilling. But the block was that I thought that I need to just hang on to that money and make that money multiply, which comes back to the beliefs that we were talking about. And this understanding, this belief was not there that, hey, this money is also consciousness manifest, and so is Prab. And money and Prab need to have just like a fun time together. I it's like I've given divorce to money. It's sitting in an investment account getting multiplied, and I am sitting here just resigned to my life. There, that gameplay is not happening. And then the entire narrative shifted that, hey, that money is a blessing from the universe for me to upgrade my life. And it's just not a narcissistic upgradation of my life, because all of it is the universe. Like, it's not just me and the money, it's Kiran, my wife, it's Vishnu, it's my son, it's my parents, it's my neighbors. If I go down and meet a neighbor, like, all of it is the universe. So how I can use that money to upgrade my experience of life and upgrade it for everyone else, which brings me to the concept of service. Because when this shift happened in my life, I really wanted to utilize money to have the best experience for my life in the here and now, to have the best health, to have the best mindset, to have the best coaching, to go for the best retreat that I really need. And as I started growing, I look at it as perhaps the universe started giving me more and more ideas and thoughts of how to upgrade my game to the next level, upgrade my video game. And it was like, hey, we are learning so much. Let us share it with the world. Let us help people. Let us offer coaching to people. Let us offer this podcast to people so that more people can learn and even do that and earn money in the process. While earlier I used to look at it like this: oh, if I'm sharing something good with people and I'm asking money, maybe I'm being like not a good person. This entire shift in money, that money is not evil. It's like the same universe manifest, and it's bringing together this entire gameplay. Just go out and play that game. It's really brought that change for me, and it brought me to this concept of service. How do you look at it? Like, serving other people, how is that part of the entire equation? Because you're also doing quite a lot of that. Like, you doing that with me changed my life.
Yes. So I would say it's been an evolving journey for me. And you see, as I said, it's like initially, first of all, I feel very blessed that I was able to liberate myself and I was able to generate financial freedom and abundance for myself. But then I saw that how other people were still struggling around this piece, right? And what that meant is that when they're struggling, that the outcomes of their own life are pretty bad, right? Because they're spending years and decades of their life doing something that they don't really enjoy. They're not having the most epic adventure. They're just kind of scraping by, right? And so, so I realized that it's like, how can I contribute? Just because everyone else is also me, it's like, and it's just that if you're not able to see some patterns, and if I can help you identify it, and then we can have more teammates in the game. It's like if there's a whole lot of people who are just stuck somewhere, they're not participating in this game of life. Right? They're all trapped sitting in their 6 by 6 cubicles. And so I realized that, man, okay, if we can awaken a bunch of people, we can make them realize that, hey, this is a game that you can really enjoy, and like you can participate in. It's like, so, but then in that process, as I was telling you, what I learned is that in the world that we're in today, like if you just tell this to people for free, they don't appreciate it, they don't value it, right? So you have to create a more systematic structure around it. And so that was one thing that I learned. And the interesting thing is, like, when you actually charge people for it, then they take it a lot more seriously. You take it a lot more seriously, and everyone gets much better results because there's accountability on all sides. Like, and there's a demonstration that you are willing to invest in yourself. Because there's a huge difference. There are people who will say a lot of things. They'll say that I want this, I want that, I want to do this, I want to do that. But when it comes down to it, like, are you really? And a lot of people are not. They'll say that, it's like, oh, I want to be financially free, right? But what are you doing about it? Like, are you investing your time, your energy, your money in some form in order to like move your life in that direction? Are you reading the right kind of books? Are you meeting the right people? Are you asking the right questions? Are you taking the coaching that you need? Are you, in the groups that you need to be? Do you have that accountability? Are you taking the steps? Most people are not. They would just say that, oh, I would like to have this, but it's not going to like magically appear, and as we were talking about a wide variety of skills. See, another thing is like, my views on school, anyways. Like, but I'll say it again. I think school is a scam. Like, because you go through this stuff for like 16 to 20 years, and at the end of it, they don't really give you any valuable skills. Because after going to school for 12 years and then going to college for 4 years, still when I got my first job, then the people in the job had to train me for like a few months before I can actually start delivering something of value to them for which they're actually paying me salary. And I realized if this is the case, these guys could have hired me 10 years ago because they don't need that much. It's like what they needed is just that I have a functional brain, I can speak English. And, there are like, because I was working in an investment bank, and what we used to do is like, we were basically making pitch books, right? And essentially, like, there are people in London, in New York, there are these bankers who are meeting other investors and then pitching to them that, hey, we should sell this company to that fellow, or this project should be sold to that guy, and like whatever. It's like, and if a deal goes through, 2% is the amount that comes to the investment bank, right? And so at that time, my first job, I was just like in the lowest rung of the ladder. It's like the dude who is just scraping information off the internet and making stuff. So there's some dude who's actually meeting these people, and then he's like, he'll just message me and then say that, okay, I want this stuff. So I will have to make the pitch book. So then, like, then you have to like look at this company, look at its assets, and different valuation models, and it's like, and then come up with like, okay, how much should this project be worth and whatever. And then you make the whole thing, you send it to this guy, and then he will send you back an email saying that, no, change these things, this has to be like this has to be like that. And then it's like, and I realized how that's a scam, I tell you. Like, like I remember this one project that I was working on. And like, this guy wanted to change the valuation a little bit, right? And so what they do is like, there's this concept, where they see the net present value of future cash flows. And the way you have the calculation of the future cash flow is like, okay, you've taken some estimates from say Bloomberg or something for certain number of quarters, and after that you have like this perpetual growth rate. It's like you'll put a small number and then it'll be like, okay, this is the rate at which it's going to grow and some stuff like that. And then you make a net present value of the whole thing. And then you say, okay, this project is worth this much, right? All of this bogus anyways. So, but then this dude, is like, okay, he wants this thing to go up. So then you have this big Excel sheet with like, 20 different tabs, and there's like so much information going in all these tabs. And if you go to this one cell, and if you change 1% by say 0.25, like, right. And so, and I'm like, yo, like, this guy has a number in his mind, right?
Absolutely.
And
It's just an eyewash. Like, this is the result that we need. Let us paint a huge picture so that people are just drawn to seeing parts of that picture, just looking at the movie that we've produced, and not that one number, how that number came and where it came from.
yeah. And so that is what I noticed, that, okay, hey, this is what is going on over here, right? And yeah, but I lost the train of thought. How did we even come to this point? What was the
Oh,
question?
sorry. Yeah, we were talking about how school is a scam and you were doing this project at an investment bank.
Right. And why was I talking about that?
Like, you realized how what was being done there didn't really need any skill. And
Yeah. Because see, this is something that could have just been, like they could have picked me up from like 8th class or like even like 6th class or something like that.
yeah,
Probably when I was 11 years old, I could have done the same job.
and
Like,
done it better, I would say.
definitely, right? but they just waste so much of your time, you know. It's like, and the point is, what they're doing is, at the end of this whole process, after investing like 20 years of your life, so much time, so much money and everything, they bring you at a point where you're just capable of presenting a piece of paper to a bunch of people in a room and sitting with a lot of nervousness and hoping that they will select you.
Hmm. Yeah,
If this is,
essentially, like,
yeah, if this is
yeah,
not a
sorry.
scam, what is, you know?
Absolutely. Like, I think you spent like 16 odd years of your life looking at books which are really obsolete, written decades ago, when there are such amazing books to read, which can really upgrade your life. You have let go of all the amazing exploration that you could have done and the fun that you could have had. And what you have ended up being is a person who doesn't have any skills, who hasn't had any fun, and who is not even fit for the job that he or she has been preparing for 16 or 20 years. It's
Yeah,
like demoting yourself. It's not even like you are stagnant, you are not, it's like demoting yourself. It's like the
true.
biggest scam.
True that, true that. And in contrast, like, the actual skills that you need, and see, because what happens is, because people have been brain damaged because they've gone through like 20 years of this garbage. And, you know,
Hmm.
so they have integrated a lot of really bad ideas into their brain.
Absolutely.
And,
Beliefs.
and now their self-worth is also like really low. You know, it's like they think that, you know, it's like the only thing I'm capable of doing is a job. And there are so many people who are so deeply stuck in this fear कि भाई job छोड़ दी तो मतलब अब कैसे जीवन जिएंगे. That's
Hmm.
because, you see, and I'm not saying that, you know, it's like, oh, you will survive, it'll be fine. No, there are a different set of skills that you definitely need. You know, it's like, but they're not so hard to actually acquire. And the reason people have this erroneous belief system is because they invested 20 years of their life, spent lakhs, like dozens of lakhs, you know, on
Yeah.
this thing, and then they got so little value out of it. And if that is the model on which they're basing their future, obviously you will feel a lot of fear and apprehension. But
Absolutely.
one of the things that, you know, is like we need to understand is that that is a very erroneous model. It's like you're, you know, you're thinking about the world on the basis of a scam. But rather, if you're able to see that, you know, it's like, okay, hey man, if I need to start my business, there's actually not so many things that you really need. Like, you need to have a product or a service which is valuable, that is actually enriching people's lives. You need to have a way to like reach people. You need to have a way to let people know that you're offering this thing. You have to have a mechanism so that they can experience what you're offering. And then you have to have a way to convert, and then they work with you, and then there's like a value exchange. And if you're able to deliver some amount of value to people, you can make money. And you just have to learn how to maximize the amount of value you can deliver, and what is the conversion of value to money, right? And so there are a multiple like set of skills that you definitely need to have, right? But it is not unimaginably hard. It is not, you know, the kind of model that we've been taught in our education system. Like, of
Hmm.
course, you need to learn about sales, you'll have to learn about like lead generation, you will have to learn about, like, you know, a bunch of things. But it doesn't have to take 20 years of your life, you know. Honestly,
Absolutely.
it can be done in a couple of months.
Yeah. And like today, the day and age that we are living in, it's like an absolute blessing. It's really a transformative age, I would say. And the amount of knowledge that is available to us on a tap, like I am doing this podcast, we are together doing this podcast, and I just looked at a bunch of YouTube videos to learn about lighting, how to set up the microphone, and there are a lot of very amazing concepts that people are talking about based on their journey, wherein they have invested like 10 and 20 years of their life, and they're sharing those gems out of their own journey. And you can just look at a video and listen to it for about 1 hour and get to know all of those gems and just start practicing them from the word go. And it's much faster than going through like 20 years of schooling and still not knowing what you want to do, and then trying to acquire the knowledge that you need with a self-worth which is so low that you think you're not going to succeed in it. Which now brings me to the point of, like, all of this is amazing, but something really fundamental, which I felt is really transformative. And in order for me to be consistent and in order for me to be focused in the right direction, this has really been very, very useful for me, which is self-love. Like, we've talked about love, but like, what is this concept of self-love? And I see a lot of people look at it as selfishness. And what does this have to do with the successes and happiness that you can have in your life?
Okay, beautiful question. So I would say, you see, self-love is essentially your ability to love yourself. It's like, because you see, what has happened is a lot of people have a void in their heart. There's like
Hmm.
a hole. And their model of reality, the way they're actually living their life is that they're looking constantly. They don't consciously think about it this ways, but when you observe what is actually going on in their life, you will see that they're always seeking for something to fill that void, right? And
Hmm.
there's always this looking. It's like, now somebody might do it through shopping, somebody might buy a fancy bag, somebody might buy some nice shoes or a watch or like whatever, it's like get a new phone. And but all of these objects don't really satisfy you. they don't
Hmm.
they don't fulfill you the way you want to. The other thing that people do is they look for relationships. It's like they think that, okay, maybe a boyfriend will come in or a girlfriend will come in, and then she will, like, come, fill this void in my heart that I feel, right? But the problem with that is that if you have a void in your heart, you're just going to resonate with another person who also has a void in their heart.
Hmm.
And it's like two beggars, putting on a facade of being like ultra rich and meeting each other's, hoping that, the other person is going to bring in all the fortune in my life. And
Hmm.
when the masks fall off, they realize that, oh my God, we're both beggars, right?
Hmm.
And this is what a lot of people go through. And this is a function of a lack of self love, because then you have a void inside your heart, like, and you see, the opposite of self love is self destruction. Like, how
Oh.
can somebody identify that, am I suffering from a lack of self love? It's simple. You just look at your own habits and patterns in life. Like, are you engaging in self destructive habits? Like, do you smoke cigarettes? Like, do you eat awful kind of food? Are you eating the worst kind of crap? Are you living in the worst kind of relationships? Like, are
Hmm.
you putting up with like all kinds of mental torture and abuse? Like, are you hanging out in like really unpleasant negative spaces? Because if you have an abundance of self-worth and self-love, and like, you see, let me kind of explain the idea of self-love. It's like, well, I spoke to you also about this, but like, there's another client of mine, who is a father of two boys, right? And I said, to help him understand this idea, that, hey man, like, you see, both your sons, like, one of them really enjoys football, and the other guy is more into like music, and you're taking time out to make sure that both their needs are satisfied. And
Hmm.
he's a busy guy, like, he has his own business, and he's like, he's got a lot of things going on, barely any time. And now he's still doing everything he can in order to provide the best possible life for both his boys.
Hmm.
And I asked him, what are you doing for yourself though?
Hmm.
Nothing,
Hmm.
right? And the problem with that is that eventually you get burnt out, and you're misallocating your resources, and that doesn't help anyone in the long run. And in order
Hmm.
for him to like really understand the concept of self love, I told him, from this moment, you think about it as you have three sons. Like,
Hmm.
you have an inner child who is your firstborn. That's your first child. And then you have like these two other boys. So you have 3 boys. And so now, when you want to allocate your time to your children, you split it one third, right? So that your time and energy goes towards nurturing all 3 of them.
Hmm.
And what that did is that really transformed his relationship with himself, with his children, with his wife. Because in until that moment, what was happening is that, it's like he would put his own needs last,
Hmm.
and he would do everything, like to keep the family happy, to keep this one happy, and do that. And it's like, but eventually what was happening as a result of that is that he was feeling awful about himself in life.
Hmm.
And it's just that now he cannot like tell his sons about how awful he's feeling. So he would tell me about how awful he's feeling. Right. And when I told him to change this, and it's like, when you just love yourself because you exist, it's like you're a little child and you treat yourself like a little child. And you love yourself just because you exist and for no other reason. Because this is another thing, it's like we've been raised in a society that puts a lot of conditions. Like you're lovable if you come first or second in class. If you fail, you're horrible, right? If
Hmm.
you are like ranked 24th in class, we're disappointed.
Hmm.
You come first, we love you, right? So now what happens as if that becomes your model of reality, then even as you start growing up, you've just replaced performance and marks with other outward manifestations and validators. And you're always looking for these validators so that you can approve of yourself and love yourself, and you can feel like, okay, now I'm worthy of receiving love. If I came first in class, now I'm worthy of receiving love. If I've come last in class, now I'm unworthy, right? And then you just grow up, and the same thing translates to business. Like हमने deal close कर दी, मतलब 10 crore आ गए, like now I feel worthy of receiving love. The deal fell through. It's like now the quarterly targets have not been met. Now I feel unworthy.
Hmm. It's like a misidentified idea of self, like if I'm saying this correctly.
Mm.
So it's like I've never really connected with who I am, with my own self. And my idea of self rests upon how other people look at me, the approval I get from other people, how pleased other people are from me, how happy they are. So the same thing I'm chasing throughout my life, and that outward success and happiness and appreciation, validation from other people, I have confused that with my own self, with my own existence. It's a existential crisis, perhaps, that you have forgotten who you are and you are looking for nourishment through these external approvals and validations and indicators. And no wonder you can't receive that nourishment, because you're looking for it outside. You started with a very beautiful concept that you can't look for a fruit without nurturing the root. And we are just here looking for fruits. And we don't even know where the roots are, what they need, how much water, what kind of soil, what kind of sunshine. Like, no wonder I speak to people and I ask them, like, do you step out and gaze at the sun? Do you soak the sun and bathe in the sun? Do you go take a dip in water and swim in a river or swim in the ocean? Like, the typical answer is we just go for a holiday and eat at this place and eat at that place and stay at a beautiful resort. It's just checking mark all of those things which tell you that my life has arrived, and not doing any of those things which are directly nourishing my own being, directly nourishing my own self through the food I am putting in my body, through the thoughts I am putting into my head, through the relationships I am having, like everything. And it flips the entire model of life. Like, on one side, I've seen this life where people are like, we are living to run a successful business. Like, I'm running this business to have the most joyful, phenomenal life in the here and now, not the other way around, which perhaps is the idea of self love that you're talking about. And for me, this question really helps me. Like anytime if I just pop this question and try to answer it for myself, it's like a litmus test, which is this nurturing me or not?
Hmm.
Whatever I am doing, is this nurturing me in the best possible way? If the answer is no, I am headed the wrong way. And I think like people really are not to be blamed. And we've had these conversations. I only feel compassionate towards them because that's the training that they have received through their childhood. And I reflected back at my childhood and I was writing my own life story during one of the sessions that we were having, like just a couple of weeks back. And my life was all about pleasing other people and keeping them happy because I was a sick child and my health wasn't great. My family held me very close to them,
Hmm.
and I wasn't allowed to really explore and go out and do random stuff. There was always this sense of overprotection.
Hmm.
And because my life just revolved around my family and my mother, it translated eventually for me that if they are happy, then life is going in the right direction for me.
Hmm.
And as I grow up, this definition, this belief carries forward. Like if my peers are pleased with them, it's success.
Right.
If my teachers are pleased with them, it's success. Why I am trying to ace this exam? For joy, for myself? No, to please my teacher, to be praised by my family once I'm back, for everyone to say that he's a brilliant guy, because that's my identity.
Hmm.
And you talked about like changing this self image. It's like a beautiful concept because identity is eventually the self image that we are holding in our head and which gets created since our really early childhood and even before. And we really need to look back at all of this, how our life transpired, and not look at any of this through, resentment or be discouraged that, oh, my life is not good. I have all of these wrong beliefs. What will happen now? It's all because the universe is working for us. You mentioned this, that life is a teacher, the universe is a teacher. And every moment we are receiving teachings, we are receiving lessons. Only when we start looking at them that way, we receive the gift that the universe wants to give us, right?
Hmm. True. Absolutely, brother. Totally agree.
Awesome. So that's been a really, really wonderful conversation. Anything else that you would like to talk about, discuss?
No, I think that's quite a. I think it's been quite a long
Marathon.
discussion. Right. Yeah, but wonderful, brother. I had a really, really amazing time having this conversation. And I think
Likewise.
it's a really
Just loved
beautiful,
it
yeah, really beautiful start, I think, to two different podcast series. Yeah.
at the same time.
Yes, absolutely. Like wonderful launch, I would say. So maybe one question that I want to ask you is like this is something that I've thought of asking pretty much everyone that I meet, and this is also part of my strategy. Is I want to know from you, say, who are say three people that I should talk to, right? And this ways I can just connect with more and more interesting people who are doing some really fascinating work, right?
Hmm.
So, are there any people that you would recommend me to have a conversation with?
You want me to name those people right now, or?
Well, you can take your time to think about it as well. And you can probably just message me later and, it'd be,
Yeah, sure. I would love to do that.
yeah, wonderful. And if you
Yeah.
want, we can probably, I'm open to having like a multiple people podcast as well. It's like if you want, we can collaborate and, it's like have some, like, yeah, sure, why
Why
not?
not?
Yeah,
Why not? Why not?
multiplayer team game, fun.
Multiplayer team game. Let's elevate the game.
Totally, totally.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Vishnu, for such a lovely time. Beautiful, some beautiful conversations. It was really, really awesome for me.
Right.
And thanks for taking out all of this time. And
My
I just
pleasure.
want everybody to know one more time. You mentioned this to begin with, that you are running this business called Enlightened Healers Program, which is about sharing this gift with other people so that they can also share this knowledge, this new understanding of how life actually is. So if you would really want to get in touch with him, please do that. And he's also written a book which is titled Give and Grow Rich. And it's in fact the flip side of how we look at life, that we need to hoard to grow rich. And once you just start giving, more starts to come to you. So if you really want to know how and what to do, the nitty-gritties, the tools to implement in your life, I really, really recommend this book. It's an awesome book. And I've gone through this. It really has a lot of transformative tools, very short snippets, a very beautiful read, not something very tiring or long. You can just finish each chapter one day at a time, or just implement it 1 week at a time, and it can start to transform your life. So I would really recommend that book. Lots of love to everyone. Thank you so much for logging in. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for that, brother. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.